Have you ever heard the expression before that there's two certainties in life, death and taxes? Now, weirdly, I was able to make a very odd connection a few years ago when I had my accountant help me file my business taxes. And I was like, you know what? There is a really good lesson in this when it comes to healthy eating and nutrition. Sounds weird, right? Well, I'm Jennifer Broxterman from Prosper Nutrition Coaching, and let's dive in and figure out what that connection actually is. Okay, now before we actually get into this tax accountant nutrition connection, I have to go back and tell you a little bit of a story about the spring that everything was a hot mess in my own life. So when I say we, my husband and I were in the process of moving his fitness facility from a medium-sized gym to a super big, ginormous gym. And we had like 10,000 million pounds of weights ahead of us that we had to lift and move barbells, weight plates, kettlebells, dumbbells, taking things off the wall, reassembling. Oh my goodness, moving a gym is a huge workout in itself. To add on top of that, at the time, I was a university professor and I was in the middle of final exam marking season. So I had a stack of about 150 papers I had to get through that were time sensitive and needed to be graded. Oh, and to add insult to injury, literal injury, I accidentally cut myself with a knife requiring stitches, and I was in so much pain, couldn't even really, chop and hold things in the kitchen because I had this giant bandage around my wound. And I also had committed myself to be part of this food exchange with some friends, which basically was where each of us, three friends and myself, would batch cook a healthy meal and divide it into smaller portions and then swap with one another. So we had some healthy options in the refrigerator and freezer. So as you can imagine, I was a little bit stressed, a little bit frazzled, and very overwhelmed. Now, if I think about how a tax accountant has saved me a number of times, I don't love the process of getting my receipts together and sitting down and going and figuring out and filing my taxes at the end of the year. But I'm really good at just shoving them aside into a folder and like handing them off to someone and going, well, you like this, I'll pay you money since you like to do this more than I do, and just take care of it and tell me if I'm getting a refund or if I owe a little bit more in taxes that I haven't already paid so far. And so the government, AKA, if I use the analogy of our stomachs, does not care who does the work. It doesn't care if you lovingly chop the kale to make your own fresh kale salad, or if you make a sheet pan of roasted chicken, or you go out and barbecue and roast some food and then bring it in for healthy eating throughout the week. All that the government cares is that we're putting mostly high quality food into ourselves on a regular basis. So our cells of the body have received what they need, high nutrient energy in order to do what they need to do inside of us. So going back to that weekend in the spring, I knew I had committed to this meal exchange, and in a really good way, I'm glad I was backed into a corner because it allowed me to come up with a solution-oriented mindset instead of just throwing up my hands and going, well, I guess I can't eat well, or I guess I can't commit to that batch cooking because I had the pressure of like peers and social support. I think if I was just all on my own that weekend, we definitely would have just grabbed some food out and made it much easier on ourselves, although not necessarily the more nutritious option. So here's what I did. Not really knowing anyone at the time, I reached out to one of my nutrition clients who was going through culinary school, and I knew she was a really big foodie, loved to cook, and I just gave her basically a quick job offer. And I was like, hey, can I pay you for your time? Would you like to come over to my house? I'll have the groceries shopped for ahead of time, or in fact, they're already in my fridge, but I just need a few hours of your time to go and prepare what I intended to make for my exchange with my friends. I can pay you cash for the job. Here's what the rate would be per hour. I hope it sounds pretty fair to you. Does that interest you? Do you have time? And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, that would be a great little part-time job. I have time, a day from now, and I can come over on Saturday afternoon from 2 to 5 and get it done. I was like, perfect. So I sat at my kitchen table, marking away for my university papers to get my grades submitted for my students. And she just buzzed around my kitchen, was in my fridge and freezer, using my oven, made all the food I had intended to make myself, and then cleaned up after herself, ran a load in the dishwasher, and then popped into my freezer all these individual healthy meals like I would have done, minus the hand injury, the moving our gym, the marking final exams, and just feeling really overwhelmed and stressed. And I was like, hey, I think I might be onto something here. So I want to give you 3 ways that you can embrace this mindset of the tax accountant solution. And before I go into the 3 rungs of the ladder, I want to extend permission in this video. Permission for yourself that you don't have to do it all. So repeat after me. I don't have to do it all by myself. I don't have to do it all by myself. I honestly don't have to do it all by myself. So do you, change your own oil of your car, or are you okay that someone does that for you? Do you work really hard to get a tough stain out of a piece of clothing, or do you hand it over to the dry cleaner and they can figure out how to get that red wine stain out of an outfit? Do you, do your own landscaping, or do you hire a company? I'm trying to think of other examples. Do you do your own housekeeping? Or again, do you just say, this isn't something I love to do, and once or twice a month to have someone come in and do a really excellent job, that's money well spent. Yet for food, we often feel a lot of hesitation because we think, or we're programmed to believe, that healthy eating means we have to plan, we have to shop, we have to cook, we have to clean. Let's look at decomposing some of those requirements of where can you pay your accountant to do the parts for you. So the easiest level of buy-in, or the lowest rung on the ladder, is to just find the easy wins at the grocery store. That might be the roasted chicken. That might be a salad to go. That might be something like getting the spiralized spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles, or buying just the cantaloupe that's already cut up, ready to go. So if you have to pop them into some lunch containers, easy peasy, no big deal. Most people, to some extent, are already kind of okay with this idea. So it's like getting our toes in the water for asking for help. And we're just basically paying the grocery store staff to do some of those prep rolls for us so we can still eat that high quality food. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 with the tax accountant solution is this is a little bit more of a commitment, but it's basically being okay to outsource, especially the shopping, the planning, and the delivery to a meal delivery box company. So some examples that come to mind might be things like HelloFresh, Blue Apron, Chef's Plate, Good Food. I mean, there's many more on the market. And for a lot of people, it's not that they don't enjoy healthy eating or they wouldn't like those foods. They really get hung up, or where they sort of run out of options is it's the time, the stress, the planning. I can't tell you how many clients have told me, Jen, I don't want to think about what I'm having for dinner again and again and again for the rest of my life. So even to just have a company sort of help you out, maybe those middle 3 nights of the week, maybe you get a box coming on Tuesday that covers Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and at least for the brunt of the work week, you've got someone who has planned your meals, they're in season, they can get you a little bit of a cost saving because they're buying at scale for thousands of customers. Now, if I can read some of your minds, I know I'm going to get a little bit of hate for this suggestion, because you're going to go, but the waste, like the boxes, the cardboard, the trees, the plastic, isn't that really wasteful? I agree with you. You're not wrong. But there's also waste when we buy groceries that have good intentions to be made, and they end up in the garbage where they don't get composted properly and end up in a landfill. Or it's wasteful when we mean to eat well, but we get a fast food meal or a box pizza or a to-go one more time, and there's takeout and styrofoam and plastic and wasting that comes with that. So you're not wrong. And there, of course, are ways to look for more environmentally friendly companies. And in fact, in my quest to try to look into this, especially for my local clients here where I live in Canada, I was able to find this really great company called Urban Jars. Now, I think they have a few centers across Canada, depending on where you live, but it's almost like your old-fashioned milk bottle delivery system where they use glass mason jars and they put meals in these glass jars. where it might be a stir fry that you dump out and reheat yourself. It might be a nice big quinoa and veggie salad bowl. They make little oatmeals and breakfast options. They make little energy balls, and they'll drop them right in your doorstep in these glass containers. You pay a deposit, and then you can return the glassware back to the company, and it gets 100% reused as a zero waste food delivery option. So there are companies definitely thinking about this waste issue. But remember how I said that shooting all over ourselves and expecting perfection is a really fast way to take no action whatsoever. So better is better, forward is forward, for sure. And for many people, they might just be down in a rut where they're so bored of cooking, they're so bored of their usual dinner ideas. Maybe getting a box service for a couple of months just to bring some excitement and some flavor and some flair back into your dinners is a great way to kind of kickstart the love of cooking again. And then you can save your favorite meal cards and off you go back to, the planning, the shopping, the organizing. So it's a solution. It's not a perfect solution, but it's definitely an option if time feels really pressured and you want to be raising the quality of your food choices. That's a great second option. The final option I want to present to you for the tax accountant solution is this idea of hiring a chef. Now, this is not what your first reaction is. This is not like someone lives in your house, like your Oprah Winfrey, and cooks in your kitchen and then plates it and serves it at the dinner table and then does all the cleanup. I mean, kudos to you if you can afford that and that works for your lifestyle. But for us mere mortals, that's probably not going to be the realistic option when I suggest a chef. What I mean by a chef is either a real chef or a foodie or someone with some culinary experience or love of cooking who is willing to trade some time for money to batch cook on your behalf. So I've had fantastic luck reaching out to some restaurants that I really like and want to support locally and seeing if they have any sous chefs that want to take on, some part-time hours per month, and whether they want to cook in the commercial kitchen, do it in my kitchen, do it at their own home-based kitchen, and do a little cooking for myself or some of my clients. And then I'm obviously going to pay for groceries anyways, so that's really no extra expense. And then just taking on a labor cost. So whether it's 20, 25, 30, 35 bucks an hour, I mean, it depends on where you live and what feels like a very fair rate, maybe even $50, $60 an hour. But hey, if it takes 3 hours at 50 bucks an hour, this is like a more high example. And for that $150, they can make a whole bunch of healthy lunches that they can just put into some glassware that I've dropped off for them. Holy smokes, that is a very good use of $150, where each day I know I'm going to have high quality food going into me. It's in my freezer. I can just pull right out and warm right back up. And someone who enjoyed it got there faster and better than I could have on my own. So my usual instructions when I work with a student or work with a chef is I just say, what I'm looking for is a whole food-based meal. Let's try to make it at least 50% veggies and definitely, lots of greens and what's in season. I'm looking for a source of protein that could be plant or animal or a mix. And then I like to eat a little bit of high quality carb, especially pulling from things like sweet potato and quinoa or brown rice, for instance, or squash. But I trust you with the flavors, the spices. You might have a preference for things being more spicy, less spicy, onions, no onions, garlic, no garlic. You can give those little personalized details. And I've just found great luck if this is sort of overwhelming you in a couple of ways. I might put up a post on social media and say, hey, I'm looking for someone who likes to cook, who's maybe willing to do some batch cooking each month. This is the rate of pay I can offer. Please send a resume, here or DM me, and then we can sort out the details. I've also actually contacted, in our city, we have like a little culinary school, and sent the resume or sent the job posting off to the department head of the culinary school. And we also actually have a foods and nutrition, like dietetics school in my city at a university. And I've gotten great luck with university and college age students who just want this great, fun part-time job. They're already interested in healthy eating and cooking, and they've been overjoyed to work part-time and make a little bit of cash on the side. And I've been overjoyed to, go drop off some glassware and say, hey, do you mind just filling up some of the glass dishes that I have? I'm looking for 15 meals, 20 meals, whatever it is, that are lots of veggies, some protein, and some healthy carbohydrates. So I wanted to kind of challenge you today to think outside the box. One thing you'll hear me say a lot over at Nutrition RX with my own private practice clients and over at Prosper on the nutrition certification side of things is we don't make excuses, but we try to problem solve with solution-oriented thinking. So there's always something we can do. Forward is forward, better is better. We don't have to be perfect, and embracing the good enough answer for that day, whether that be using the grocery store, using maybe a meal delivery or a meal box service, or even thinking more creatively than that and connecting with some local chefs, culinary students, people that just enjoy cooking, like accountants don't mind doing taxes, and you can still pay the government a really healthy, high nutrient, whole food option. So I hope that gives you some creativity to go off of. Thank you as always for spending some time with me today. And I can't wait to keep talking healthy eating and nutrition with you in another video soon.